Not recording. So, the order of business today, we are going to have a review session. We are going to, basically my plan is to go through the test 2 published example test, which exists on Canvas right at this very moment, and basically just kind of run this as a prep quiz type session. Please treat this as if you were writing a test, right? So don't look the answers up. You don't even have to ask the infernal chatbot. The answers to this are the document below this document on Canvas. We're going like, ideally, you would also write your solutions out on paper if you have a notebook with you. You will be writing on paper during the test, so this is good practice for writing code on paper. If you don't have any paper on you, my recommendation is to type out your solutions in something like Notepad. That's right, honest to goodness Notepad. Something that does no auto-completion and no syntax highlighting, because when you're writing things on paper, do you have syntax highlighting? I think not. So, that's my recommendation for this exercise. We're going to do a question, then I'll do the question on the board, and we'll alternate like that. I'm not going to put the questions up on the projector. If you can bring those up on your own computers, then you can have it in front of you and I can have a full board. Question?
Slightly different topic. Are we getting assignment 4 grades back? I know there's a lot of arrays and GUIs on assignment 4. And grade tests and all that stuff. I don't know.
Fine. I was trying to put it off so I could get your exam finished. But, fine. Actually, your exam is almost finished. I might be able to pull it together tonight. Oh man. Yes.
Just a small question. The exam itself, is it going to be a 2-hour or 3 hour?
3 hour, yeah. Yeah, 3 hour exam. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I posted the exam details to the announcements feed today. So our final examination will be held Wednesday, August 13th at, drumroll, 8 a.m. I know, but that's true. 8 a.m. for your exam. The room is C066. You guys know where that is?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We've had exams before.
Good. If you don't, there's a kind of a cluster of rooms around the bookstore area in C-Wing. That's where you'll be heading. So yeah, exam. So, does everybody have the test up and in front of them at the moment?
This is the one that says test 2 winter 2018, or the one that says test 2 review questions?
The precise file that you're looking for is under the week 10 test 2, it's the first one, test 2 winter 2018.pdf, not the review questions. Those we will leave for your own edification. This is an actual exam that was actually deployed 7 years ago now? So, yeah. So you folks have already written one of these, so I guess I can skip the preamble of what's on the title page, right? So, part 1, knowledge and understanding. Question 1. Write the minimum amount of code necessary to represent the 2 classes in the UML diagram on the right. 3 marks. I will give you, I think, a minute and a half. I know that's not a lot of time, but we have to keep things tight. There we go. 1 minute 30 on the clock. All right. Solution. First of all, what kind of relationship is that? Association is correct. Public class 1. Class 1 is the one that is being associated with. It is actually empty. Public class 2 is associated with 2 class 1s. Public class 1 foo. Public class 1 bar. There you go. 1, 2, 3 marks.
It should be public class 1.
Public class, oh yeah, it needs the class keyword, doesn't it? Yes, pardon me, yes, sorry. There we go, public class 1, public class 2. Yes, good. Thank you. Anything else? Yes?
If we did it in an array, adding 2 to
That's
the
fine.
that'd also be fine.
That's good. Is that your question?
So, no, just just so I want to confirm my understanding. So this means that this is relying on the default constructor that comes by default, right? You didn't explicitly write a constructor.
That's right.
Okay.
It said, the question said the minimum amount of code to meet these requirements, right? So, the default ones were, right? Yes. Okay. Question 2. Write the minimum amount of code necessary to represent the 2 classes in this UML diagram on the right. Let's give you, I think we can manage that in 1:15, eh? Maybe less? So what's the relation type? Inheritance, right. What is inheriting what? Yes. Public class 2. What's the keyword? That was worth 3. If I had come up with the grading scheme, that wouldn't have been worth 3 marks. That's okay. So, question 3. Write the declaration, that is, just the first line for the method shown in the class diagram on the right. I'll give you 50 seconds. Is it private or public? How do you know? Very good. Is it instance or static? How do you know? What's the return type? What's the method name? Creative. Argument list takes x, which is integer. By the way, in C++, you call that a function prototype. Very good. 3 marks for that would be 1 for getting that, 1 for getting that, and I suppose 1 for getting the rest. So, again, it's very important when you're doing these tests, don't write more than the question is asking for. Make sure that you understand what the question is asking for before you start writing, right? One thing that's a little bit of a personal pet peeve of mine is when a student writes PVSM at the top of every, it's almost like they go through the whole test without even reading the question, just PVSM, 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 PVSM. It's like, no, they're not main methods. Question?
For like this problem, if we did the squiggly brackets, like with that also.
With like nothing in them? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like technically, you're not supposed to do that unless it's abstract. So. Something like that is also perfectly acceptable. Yes?
Now, because it returns double, would we have to theoretically return double? Like just the word double? Because it returns.
Let us return to the question. Write the declaration, just the first line. So we do not care about the contents. Any further questions? Very good. Question 4. Let's just do this one together, all right? When a class A contains an instance variable to hold an object of class B, we say that the two classes are in an Association relationship, good. When class A extends class B, inheritance, very good. Very good, very good. Okay, question 6, a little bit more chunky. Describe 2 important differences between static variables and instance variables. I will give you for that, say, 2.5 minutes. Very good. So, who can describe for me the, what did you get? What did you put down? Anybody? Anybody care to volunteer their answer? What's the difference between static and instance?
The static variable would only have like one of it that can get called from all instances that would have it.
Mm-hmm.
Where instance variables would be like every instance of that will have its own copy of it and only can access that way and statics.
Yes. So that's a good baseline definition of what these 2 things do. A way that I often explain it to classes, you can think of static things as being attached to the class itself, whereas instance things are attached to the objects that are made from the made from the class. So, for example, a static variable exists even if not one object has been created from the class. Right? That might be a thing that you could have put down in this question, actually. Anybody else have, we were asking for 2 differences here, so does anybody have anything else? Yes?
I don't remember if this is correct or not, but I think static variables were accessible by static and instance methods, whereas instance variables are only accessible by instance methods.
That's right, and that makes perfect sense. That would be absolutely acceptable as a second one. That makes absolute sense when you understand static is attached to the class, instance is attached to the object, right? the object can absolutely see its class, right? But for you to use instance stuff in a static method, your class would need to know stuff about an instance of itself. And of course, if you need to know something about an instance of yourself, the immediate question is, which instance? Right? If I have a class for apples, right? And, every apple has a different weight, right? The class apple doesn't, it can't really pick a weight from among all of the existing apples, right? So that's a nonsense, right? You can't use instance data inside of a static method. And to concretize that even just a little bit more, just think of every time the compiler has barked at you for trying to use a regular instance variable in your main method. Right? Everybody gets that error at least once. Right? Good. Very good. When trying to understand static, keep in mind main is static. So the weird behavior of main is often actually just weird behavior of static things. Make sense? Good. All right. Question 7. Explain, using proper terminology, the difference between overriding and overloading a method. We'll give you another 2.5 minutes for that one. So the thing that we're doing, we've got the practice, today's test review. We've got the practice test that's on Canvas open on our screens, and we're going through the questions, writing down our answers, and then we're discussing the answers as test review. So, anybody care to tell me what the difference is between overriding and overloading? Yes.
Overriding is when the subclass has the same method name as a superclass that it inherits from, the same parameters, but it wants to act differently, so you override it. And then overloading is two methods in the same class with the exact same name, but have they have different parameters, or a different number of parameters.
That is 90% correct. The one modification I would make is that overloaded methods do not necessarily have to be in the same class. One method definition can overload a definition in a superclass. But yes, otherwise, absolutely. For overriding, you have a method in a superclass, you have another method with the same prototype, it returns the same thing and it, well actually it doesn't, return type doesn't really matter. It has the same arguments, same types in the same order. We use whatever definition is like closest to the object that we've declared, right? That's overriding. Overloading is when you have the same method name, but the parameters vary. Different types, different number of parameters, different order of the types in the parameters. An int float is not the same thing as a float int, right? These would be overloaded, not overridden. Yes?
I cannot do the for overriding. When the subclass takes the same parameters as the class in the parent class for overriding.
When a subclass method takes the same parameters, right? It's important to understand when you're talking about overriding and overloading, this is not a relationship between classes, this is a relationship between methods. Make sense? Good. Question 8. Write a single line of Java code to declare and create an array of 10 integers. Hopefully you guys can crack that one off in 45 seconds. Hopefully everybody got this one. Integer array foo is equal to new integer array of size 10. Declare and create. This would be the declaration. This is the initialization of the array. This question is not asking you to populate the array with values. That would require a loop, simple loop, a loop nevertheless, not really possible to do it in one line, right? And by the way, if anybody does anything cheeky on the test, like use a method that they don't care to define, it's like, oh, I did all of my work inside this method. Here you go. You're not getting any grades. Yes, good? All good? Quick question for you. If we're not initializing this array, what is every value of this array as it currently stands?
0.
Very good. If it was booleans? If it was floats? Very good. And if it was some object?
No.
No. Very good. Good. All right. This is a good class. Very good. All right. Question 9. write a 2-line enhanced for loop to print out, you guys didn't do, I wasn't here with you this early in the class. I think that the term enhanced for loop is stupid. It should be called a for each loop because that's what it's called in every other language. So every time I'm forced by this course to use the term enhanced for loop, I compulsively put it in sarcasm quotes. So that's what the quotes were about. So anyway, write a 2-line enhanced for loop that prints out all of the integers from the array you created in the previous question. The integers should appear all on the same line, separated by spaces. Ooh, okay, one thing before we do that, all right? Sometimes when you're writing a test, it's not obvious to me, the person who's grading it, when there's a space character in your string, right? Sometimes it's difficult for me to tell, right? I might get a student that writes something like, that. Is that X in quotes? Is that X space in quotes? It's ambiguous. So, this is my tip to you. This is hopefully everybody, please take this to heart. This is a way to get around this problem. The visible character version of the space character looks like this, right? Like that. So if you say X space, I'll know what you're talking about, right? Now, don't go overboard. I have sometimes given this advice to people, and literally anytime there's a space anywhere in their code, anywhere, they put one of those. That's too much. Please control your enthusiasm. Please use it where it might be ambiguous. Like if it's obviously like, hello world, you don't need to put the space character in there, it's 2 words, I can tell, right? But if it's like, particularly if the space is like the last or the first character in a string, it's hard to tell, right? Does that make sense? And this is part A, so this type of exact syntax detail is actually the thing being marked for, right? Make sense? Have I waffled on enough? You probably all finished the question by the time I'm finished talking, right? How about we give you 1 minute to do that, okay? 1 minute for loop. Minute to win it. All right. I think I got that right. Did I get that right?
Shouldn't it be soft because it wants it on the same line instead of south?
True. Soup.
SOP.
It's just SOP.
SOP? Ah, that's a shame, that's a shame. Can we yeah, okay, if anybody puts soup instead of sop on the test, I will forgive it. And for the record, if the front page of your test contains abbreviations that are designed to help you write the test quicker, there's probably something wrong with the design of your test. In my opinion. Maybe you're requiring people to do too much writing and not enough thinking. Anyway, like I don't even know where all the marks are coming from here. I guess 1 mark for using the word for, 1 mark for doing that, 1 mark for doing that, and 1 mark for doing this, I guess. Again, when I do questions, I give out fewer marks. They're a little more compact. Like, some people feel like, oh, you know, there shouldn't be no such thing as a 1 mark question. Not me, baby. I love 1 mark questions. Okay, question 10. Write a 2-line for loop to modify an array named X by multiplying every value in it by 2. Let's take, let's say a minute 15 to accomplish that.
Something tells me this test won't be out of 100 then.
I can't remember, but no, it's not out of 100.
The first one was.
Yes. No, I can't recall what it's out of.
Oh,
Honestly,
that's
can't,
okay.
yeah, but yeah, it's not 100. I also didn't write the whole test myself, Ruth helped, so. Ruth is teaching the other section. So I did all the good bits that you guys like, she did all the bad bits that you guys don't like. 2-line for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than, what is it, foo?
X.
X, dot length, I plus plus, you should be able to vomit that one out without any thinking whatsoever, no thinking required. Multiply every value by 2, a x at I times equals 2. Did you know times equals was a thing?
Yes.
Yeah. In Java, you should look it up. You've actually got like operator equals for pretty much every arithmetic operator, including bitwise operators, I believe. You don't have to use times equals. Yes.
So for this question, we would not be able to do a for each loop because we don't know the data type of X. Is that right?
Well, that's one reason you can't do it. The other reason you can't do it is because, okay, all right. Do you mind if we have a little mini sub lesson on for each loops right here, right now? Right, since this is relevant. All right. So, memory. Let's say you have an array X. An array X. If I have for int q in X, right? And what would the next line be?
To do what?
To multiply each element by 2.
Q times 2, or Q times equals 2?
Q times equals 2. Let's think about how memory is working. The way that the for each loop works, Q is a new variable which is declared. On the first loop iteration, it is given the first value in the array, 2. We assign to Q the value of 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is, good, 4, very good. Next iteration, Q is assigned the value and the next value in the array, 4. You see the problem?
Destroying every time.
Exactly. The value of Q is reset every iteration of the loop. Ideally, when you use a for each loop, like if you want to think like rigorous, good programming practice, none of this like, taking advantage of like small details BS, you shouldn't really modify the loop variable ever when you're using a for each loop. You should think of it as being a constant, right? Maybe in some languages you can actually declare it as constant, but you should think of it as constant anyway. Every time you move to the next element, that gets blown out. You're not actually modifying the original array. So how would we change this to modify the original array?
We need the index.
We need the index. Yeah, that's right. We don't have the index. So if you want to do this, you have to do something like, int I is equal to 0, I plus, I plus x at I is equal to q times 2. But at this point, you might as well be just using a regular for loop, right? In fact, it would be better to be using a regular for loop. So that's the reason. You can't modify using a for each loop. Now, one thing you can do with a for each loop is call methods on objects. That's fine, because you're not modifying the object references themselves. You're using them to step through to a method. So if you're calling a method, like a setter, it's fine, it works. But if you're like, for like this, you're like trying to modify a primitive, this is the same reason, by the way, that you can't declare an array of objects and initialize them using a for each loop. You run into the exact same problem, right? Because as we said earlier, when you create an array of objects, what does each one have upon initialization? Null. So think of this as an array of nulls, right? If this line is like, Q is equal to new object, or new class, initialize it, whatever. The class is created in memory. The class reference, like the pointer to that class, is stored in this temporary variable, not in the array. It is therefore deleted every time the loop iterates. By the way, does anybody know where they end up from there? All of these declared objects.
Is that a memory leak?
It's not a memory leak in Java. But in a different language, it certainly would be. If you were talking in C, it would be a memory leak. So a memory leak is when you allocate memory but don't deallocate it when you're finished with it. In some languages, this means that you accumulate dead memory over time, right? Which can actually lead to your computer becoming very, very slow and eventually crashing. Computers in the 90s used to have this problem where if you left it on for like 3 or 4 days, it would like eventually get so slow that you had to reboot it, then you'd reboot it and then it would be fast again, right? It was because old Windows operating systems leaked memory like it was half off day at the leak store. Basically when you reset the computer, it resets the memory, clears out all of the leaked dead areas in memory, gives you your memory back, and that's why it fixed it. It's not as much a problem anymore, but that's mostly because like memory is a lot bigger than it used to be. Like back in the 90s, you were working with like a few kilobytes of memory, right? So any leaks really have an effect. But yeah, the answer to my question was the garbage collector. You guys know garbage? Did they run you through garbage collection?
No.
No? You want the Coles Notes version?
Yes.
Every once in a while, and what triggers this is kind of like obscure, but every once in a while, the Java runtime environment goes through all of your variables looking for, it goes through your declared memory looking for objects that no longer have any valid reference to them, right? If there's no valid reference from a variable to an object, there's no way to get to that object, so the object is dead. It is dead, it is fried, it is no longer useful, right? So what does it do? It deletes it, frees up the memory, and then you can use that memory for other things. That's what the garbage collector does. Lots and lots of languages that have, like interpreted languages like this have garbage collectors. Garbage collection is like something that you expect a language to have these days. It either has garbage collection or it's like Rust and has some mechanism for not needing garbage collection, right? Rust is a cool language, but it's difficult. All right, back to this anyway. Question 11. Write the minimum amount of Java code necessary to create an array of 10 objects of type class 1. See the diagram on the right. Ooh, I may have given you a hint about this one. The array should have a different value for its, each class 1 object in the array should have a different value for its x variable. So, let's, I think we'll give you 2.5 minutes for that. class 1 foo. By the way, if it doesn't tell you what the name of the thing should be, you can choose anything you like. Array is equal to new class 1 array of size 10. For what kind of for loop are we using?
Not.
Not the for each loop. Anything else? Yeah. You can also use a while loop if you like. People don't usually use while loops though. So how do we get it so that the value of x is different every time? What do we do? Yeah, that's the easiest thing to do, is to just give I as the input to the constructor. Bing bang boom. Question?
If you don't initialize it or create it as a array of length 10 and instead you do while I is less than 10 in your for loop, do you also get full marks or no?
While I is less than 10.
Because
Oh.
you want a thing of size 10, so if you do like class 1 array of food and then go like in your for loop while I is less than 10, would that also give you full marks or no? Should it be new class?
Oh, like leave this part out?
Yeah, if you leave that out and put 10 and I is less than 10.
No, you mean the condition of the for loop?
Yeah, you want this replaced with 10
Yeah.
and this part missing?
Like, would you still get full marks for that or?
No, because this is an array that's not initialized, so you can't write into it. Not in Java. You may be thinking of JavaScript, my friend. Yeah. In a dynamic language, yes. In a dynamic language, that would work. But in Java, we must know the size of our arrays before we do anything with them, right? This is because we're kind of working in a slightly older paradigm, and it's necessary for Java to know exactly how much memory the array is going to take up before it plunks it in. Sometime before this course is finished, let me explain the difference to you between arrays and lists. You have a question, sir?
Yeah, I guess you kind of were going to talk about it, but yeah, you could get away with that and use array list.
I mean, yes, but it asks for an array.
True.
Yeah. Yes, you could get away with this if you used an array list, or just a list, right? All right. Question 12. I don't want to. I'm so tempted. I'm so tempted to do lists versus arrays right here, right now. But we should continue. Yeah. Okay. Let's finish the section. Then I'll do it, and I promise not to take more than 8 minutes. I'll set a timer. Okay. All right. Write a single line of Java code to print the x value of the third item in the array from the previous question. Do we even need to put this on paper? Can't you just tell me the answer?
Equals 2.
Yes. It's foo at 2. This question is testing to see if you recall 0 indexing. Right? The third item is item number 2 because it's 0, 1, 2. Right? Good? Yeah? Oh, is it printing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That is not worth 2 marks in my opinion. Yes?
You also need get x.
Oh yeah. Yeah, true. Alright. Well, maybe it's slightly more complicated than I originally said then. Okay, there we go. There we go. Alright. Okay. Alright. You guys don't want to know the difference between arrays and lists?
Yeah.
Okay. This is like one of my favorite tangents. People often put in my course evals that I take too many tangents, but I can't stop. I'm addicted. I'm addicted. All right. So, does anybody know like what the broad strokes difference between an array and a list is? Yes.
So that a list doesn't have to be of the same type?
That's one thing, yes. Lists do not have to be monotyped. Arrays do. What were you going to say?
And their lengths can change?
Their lengths can change, yes. So generally speaking, arrays, static, lists, dynamic. There we go. So I will tell you, I have a friend who is an industry professional, and he said something which I found very curious recently. He said that lists are falling out of favor in favor of arrays. And this is interesting because, you know, all of us, like most of the languages you study in this program are dynamic languages, which love dynamic data structures, right? Guess what you can't do, though? You can't do branch prediction nearly so easily in a CPU with dynamic data structures. So, like, for high efficiency stuff, and it's kind of always been true, but like with CPU branch prediction now, static data structures are just like completely destroying dynamic data structures in terms of runtime in ways that weren't conceived of back in the 90s. Anyway, here's the difference, all right? Let us imagine memory. We have our normal memory cylinder. So, for an array, you have in memory a sequence of adjacent variables. That's all that an array is. It's a sequence of adjacent variables. The elements of an array are actually literally next to each other in memory, right? You have the starting address of that array, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what the width, the bit width is of the elements of the array. How do you know how big an element of an array is?
Data type is predefined.
Yes, it's predefined by the data type. Does anybody know how big an integer is?
2 to the power 31.
That's like the maximum size of one, yes. But like, you know the answer, it's 32. 32 bits is how big that integer is in memory, right? Long integer? 64. Short integer? Double? No, you'd think so, but actually it's 64 again. The current word size of CPU architectures is 64. So basically, if you wanted to support numbers that were larger than 64, you would be into like requiring multiple CPU clock cycles to calculate one number, which is the situation we were in back in the 80s when the CPU word size was 8 bits and people wanted to use 16-bit numbers. So, you know, we don't want to go back to the 80s, all right? Yes, what about float? 32. Do you know why double is called double? Do you know what double stands for? Double precision floating point number. That's what double actually stands for. Anyway, so if we say this is 32 bits, right? One of the cool things about arrays is that you can get to any position in the array within one calculation, right? You simply multiply whatever index you're accessing by the bit width of the thing, add that to the address, and boom, you have that memory slot. So, this is actually the actual reason for zero indexing. Because in memory, the first element of the array is element with 0 offset. You multiply 32 by 0 to get the first element. So this is like, when you think of an array index, what you should be thinking of is array access with offset x, right? X at 3 is actually, like in C, and C is like, C is the language of reference here. It is the pointer plus 3 times the bit width, in this case 32, and then you dereference that, and that is y. So element 0 is 0 times 32, and it's the first element, right? So that's why 0 indexing. So that's arrays. Arrays are good, arrays are lovely, arrays are wonderful. What is a list? A list is composed of nodes where every node is a number combined with a pointer. So, what you end up having is basically your memory turns into a game of Dr. Mario. Has anybody played Dr. Mario? Hands up if you've played Dr. Mario. Okay, you guys are my Nintendo crew then. It's a game where there's a jar with pills and it looks a little bit like this diagram. It's okay, don't worry about it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first element points to the next. This one points to the next. This one points to the next. This one points to the next. And this one points to nothing. That's how a list works. So, if you want to add a new element to the beginning of a list, it's a very cheap operation, right? All you have to do is say, okay, I'm going to declare a new one, call that -1, assign that there. This, my array reference, or my list reference has gone from here. I rewrite that so it's now pointing here, and boom, I have added a new element to the list. Lists, you can add elements in constant time. Here, the maximum amount of time it takes to add an element to an array is actually the length. It's proportional to the length of the array itself. To put something in front here, you basically have to hope you have free memory right there, or else you'll have to reallocate the whole damn thing, and then you have to copy, 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 and then insert. Right? So, to add something to the beginning of an array, it's a very expensive operation, but in a list, it's cheap. So that's why you need to know the difference between arrays and lists. They're designed to do the same thing. They both hold numbers in a linear way, but arrays make some operations cheap, like looking stuff up. Lists make other types of operations cheap, modifying the size of the thing. So if it's data where the size changes frequently, you want a list. If it's a data structure where you do way more looking things up than modifying it, you want an array. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions? Cool. Hopefully that's here's a recap for you of your first lesson from data structures and algorithms, or at least what it should be. I've never actually taught data structures and algorithms, though I did at the university once. It was a fun course. All right. Madness, that course. But it was a horrible semester. That semester, so at the university, you get TAs, right? That semester they went on strike, and I started off that semester with 13 of them, which in terms of work hours is about the equivalent of 4.5 employees, or 4.25 employees, full-time employees, and I finished that semester with 1. And of course the person who scabs isn't the person who does their work in the first place, right? So, you know, that was quite the semester. All right, so let's have our 15-minute break at this point since we're between sections. I think I only took 7 minutes for that. So yes, 15-minute break. Everybody be back here by 3 minutes minus 3. 27? Yes. 6:27. Thank you very much. Wait, forgot to turn that back on. It's kind of like how, like, when you're in a hospital, you kind of want to be the person that the nurses aren't really paying too much attention to, you know? You don't want to be the person they're having to prioritize, you know?
Yeah, what I have to work on is more like the problem solving and logic, but the syntax and how inheritance works, I kind of get that part.
Good. Yeah. So can I give you some tips for problem solving and logic then? It's very, very helpful to draw diagrams. Yeah. So anytime you're asked to do anything with a with like an array, I might say this louder so that everybody can hear. This is actually advice everybody should get.
In this.
We'll do this and then I'll do that. Yeah. 30 seconds. Oh, one other thing you should know about the tests I like to do is like, I like questions where you like draw on the thing I give you, you know? Like, I'm not saying this is a question or something, but like I give you like a bunch of code here, find some syntax errors, and it's like, no, actually like circle where they are. I prefer that kind of question. Because it's a paper test, why wouldn't you do that, right? Alright, so for this one, a.getX. Where is that definition coming from? Everybody at once? Class 1, very good. B.getX, which class?
Class
C.getX, which class? Class 2, very good. A.getY? Syntax error, that's right. We don't have getY defined until we get to class 3. So obviously B.getY will also be a syntax error, and C.getY. There we go, very good. So, advice for problem-solving questions. When you are doing a problem, and it's like not just straightforward syntax memorization. This advice is particularly applicable when you're trying to do stuff with arrays, but you know, the technique generalizes. Always, 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 always draw the data structure that you are trying to work with, right? So, you know, let's say I have a question where it's like, take this input array and swap all of the, if you find a 7, swap it with a 9, something like that, right? Like the 9 has to also occur in the data structure, right? So let's say we have, you know, 8, 4, 7, 3, 2, 9, 8, 17. The algorithm's saying, if you find this and you find that, swap the 7 for the first 9 you find after the 7. Something like that, right? You see how that's much easier to understand if I give you a diagram and explain, right? it's also useful to do more diagrams illustrating the steps in the algorithm, right? So, you know, if you aren't familiar with like the swap operation, it's like, well, here, let me show you. So like when you're doing this, it's like actually take your pen and go, nope, wait, I gotta put that back, sorry. Nope, nope, yep. Put a finger there. Nope, nope, yep. Right? Like, to understand, like, to code the algorithm, you must understand the algorithm, right? You have to know what you're coding before you start coding it. Most people are much better at understanding diagrams than they are raw programming code. So, if you need a diagram and a diagram is not provided, or if a diagram is provided and you need more diagram, write your own diagram. It will help a lot, like a lot. Once you understand what the individual operations are, it's like, oh well, when I'm going through it like this, that's a for loop, right? Oh, when I've stopped here and I go with another pointer, what have I just introduced? Another for loop. That's a nested for loop. Because when this thing finishes its swap here, you go back and you start going through again. Right? So it's a for loop within a for loop. Right? When I make a decision, this is a 7, so I do something. What's that? That's an if statement. So, from doing the fingers through on a diagram, you can get, I've got on the outer bit is a loop, the inner bit, inside of that is an if statement, inside of the if statement is another loop. You can get that structure down by moving fingers around a diagram. Alright? So do that. Right? Illustrate the concept. Understand what the operation is that I'm asking you to reproduce. That is step number 1. You should do that before you put a single line of code down. Right? Ways to not do problem solving. Imagining that there's one code template that fits all problems. Right? No. There's not some set of variables that you should put at the beginning of all of your programs, right? Not all questions require loops. Not all questions require if statements. Question.
Another bad example is ChatGPT solving problems.
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, if you're having the AI solve your problems for you, it's not necessarily solving your problems for you. I was actually watching an interesting video on lying and the way that it lies. Some people call these hallucinations, but I think that's being charitable. It's just lying, you know? That's what it's doing, it's lying. It's not telling the truth. And it's like, you know, it was an interesting video because it was like, well, you know, let's say you wanted to fix the thing so that it wasn't lying anymore. So you would like produce a set of training data that only had true things in it. Well, it's like, yes, but human beings are actually not that good at knowing what the truth is either. Right? So you kind of like, the limit these things still have is, like, they're only as good as the data that goes into them. And the data that goes into them is produced by us poor, fallible, fallen humans, right? So, you know, there's only so good the things can get. You know, the example that that they were using in this video was like, apparently one thing that apparently you can do this with certain models is you can say, what happens if a mirror breaks? And a lot of the advanced ones will say, you get 7 years bad luck, right? Which, you know, is considered a superstition, considered to be not true, certainly not true within a scientific framework. So if what you're going for is scientific truth, you're not getting there with the chat algorithms, right? You're not getting there with AI. So like, Yeah, anyway, it was an interesting video. Yeah, don't solve your problems with AI either. Basically, that's all that AI is doing, right? Is it's looking at your problem and it's finding like things that seem to reference it and conglomerating it together and giving you a solution. It's just doing it with a much larger base of information, but it's not thinking. AI doesn't think, right? It is still just fancy autocomplete, right? And I must put my stake my philosophical ground right here. There are some horrible human beings who are currently saying, well, isn't that all that we are really, is autocomplete algorithms? And it's like, no, human beings are not the same thing as the AI. This is actually a fallacy that's made throughout human history. In the medieval, with human beings, we always think that we are our highest level of achieved technology. It's like, this is true like going all the way back. Like in the medieval period, right? What was the highest level of technology that we've achieved?
It's like a horse and a plow.
Well, a little bit, the medievals weren't quite, so far back. Gothic cathedrals, right? Gothic cathedrals were about the fanciest things that human beings had yet put together. They're in the medieval period. They're actually like really quite, it's kind of amazing that they can even do that with stone, They're still amazing to this day. In the medieval period, you are a temple, right? In the age of steam, the most complicated things we have are steam engines. So we have theories of medicine about human beings, modeling us as steam engines with like pressure gradients and like you have to let off pressure in the brain and that's where trepanning comes from, right? Which is occasionally true. It's actually occasionally true that the brain has too much pressure. But, during that period it was somewhat overprescribed, right? So, step forward a little bit further, we enter the computer age, right? So what are human beings? Oh, well, the brain's obviously a computer, right? The brain's not a computer, guys. It's like, oh, we step forward a little further. It's like, oh, artificial intelligence algorithms. Ooh, we must be artificial intelligence algorithms. Human beings are largely stupid and have no idea what they even are. Just understand you don't actually have to know what you are. You can just live life and be happy. You don't actually have to have like a complex theoretical, philosophical framework about what constitutes your being. You can just live life and actually that's fine, Leave philosophy to the philosophers. Understand philosophy is always the pastime of people with full bellies. Most periods in human history haven't had the time or inclination for philosophy. So, anyway, question 18 then? Modify the code below. Oh, I hate these. Modify the code below so that when the button object is clicked, its label will be replaced with the next integer in the sequence, as shown in this series of pictures. What's quite the sequence? Isn't that quite the sequence, guys? 0 to 1 to 2. I've seen that one before somewhere. Don't make any assumptions about what the integer on the button will be when it's pressed. Assume that there may be other code somewhere that is also changing the text on the button occasionally. So, this one's a little nicer because it gives you all of the stuff inside of start. It's basically only asking you to write the method, right? Without giving anything away, you should probably know how the rest of it works too. Okay. Yes?
So will we have to do the first, 4 lines, because that's usually on the template? Just anything.
Oh, no. Basically anything that's you know the JavaFX template?
Yeah.
You know the stuff that's given to you in it?
Yeah.
don't worry about that stuff. Worry about the rest of it. Know what like b.setPrefWidth does. Know how to relocate something. Know how to set the color of something. Know how to declare something. Know how to declare something with text. Be able to use the stuff. Know how to set up an event as well. Now, here's an interesting thing. Does anybody notice anything missing out of the start method there?
Yes.
Yeah? What is it?
B dot, this event, like handler.
Yep.
Or set on action, yeah.
Yep, that's also missing. Set on action is also missing there. I don't know if that was genuinely a mistake or if that was like an intended as a
I'm not
gotcha.
able to track the number.
Hmm?
I'm not able to track the value.
That we will also need, yeah. Although the thing is you're supposed to derive that from the label. So, how about you guys take like 4 or 5 minutes? Write me that method. Sound good? I'll split the difference. You get 4.5 minutes. Write that method, please.
was very much against them. I think somebody was
Was he?
talking
He said if you use him, you get 0.
I didn't reference it specifically for this line of functions make a lot of sense.
I mean, he's clearly biased.
I don't know.
Send you to the stockade for lambdas. Oh, lambdas. How are you supposed to know to come and love? How are you supposed to know to love and grow to appreciate lambdas if you're prevented from using them? I don't care if you go ahead. Just when you use them correctly. That's my own caveat. He probably said that about an assignment, right?
Yeah, he says it in everything because he doesn't trust AI. His AI loves Lambda. He brought that up multiple times.
Yes, I was about to surmise that very thing. Yeah. Basically, there are like for a course like this, there are certain like key phrases that you can kind of like grep through student submissions to see if they're using a smoking gun. You know. Oh, grep is a Linux search utility. Multi-file find using regular expressions. Regular expressions are also a thing you're told not to use.
Oh, I've used those before and I've been penalized for it.
Yeah. Those are the elder magics. You're not allowed to know about them.
I've actually spent time teaching myself regex.
Yeah.
Making stuff like HTML really easy.
Yes. Yes, it makes stuff easy, right? Basically, my policy on such things is use them if you want to, but I have the right to call you into my office and ask you questions about regular expressions to make sure you actually know what you're talking about.
I did extensively comment and discuss what each element of the regex does in the comment, just so that.
Yeah, then fine. Although that can also be generated by the infernal chat algorithm these days. But it's kind of like, you're really not supposed to do this, but you kind of associate, certain people with, oh, this person knows some programming, so when I see a submission from a person such as yourself who knows regular expressions, it's like, oh yeah, I don't actually, what's your name? Chris. Oh, it's Chris. Chris knows regular expressions. Okay, that's not surprising. Basically, I don't want to see stuff unexpectedly. I reserve the right to ask questions, and I will modify my opinion according to the answers. But basically, if you don't know regular expressions, don't use them. If you're willing to take the time to learn regular expressions, which I highly recommend because they're extremely useful, then that's fine. You can use them. But they're not quite part of the course curriculum so far. I'm sneaking them into server side though. Yeah. Yes.
For problem 18, Should button B not be declared globally so you can access B in the method?
It most certainly should be. Yes. This is a really crap question. I hate these questions.
So then, does this tell me that your test is gonna be different from this person? 'Cause this is from previous tests, right? You said 7 years ago. So the way you wrote this test is your work, and also the other professor.
Yes. It's a new test.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself, actually. I have a whole system. I use, for all of my everything, a document generation system called LaTeX. And this allows me to create individual text files for each of the individual questions, which allows me later to integrate them into a lovely database. I had to redo all of the questions anyway, so as I was doing it, I was just like, this is stupid, I'm getting rid of this, this doesn't actually ask what it means, this is redundant, this is bad phrasing, this question is entirely poor. This would be an interesting question. Yeah, it's a new test.
Okay.
But Ruth already did that, and I based my version on her version, so it's kind of like it's been washed through a couple of
Yeah.
people.
Okay.
Know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did I have to bookmark LaTeX too?
But yeah, the test is on the same topics as this one, but yeah, don't study this test thinking that studying this test will tell you the answers to the other one. That's only true, in a very marginal capacity. So, shall we do this one then? So, the method needs to be public or private.
Public void.
Public void. You could probably make an argument for this one being private though. If any method could be private that we've done, we don't normally do private methods at all. But if you could make an argument anywhere, you could make an argument here for private, right? Public void, give her a name,
Button click.
button click. What's the next bit?
Action event.
Action, event, E, sure. What's next? Assuming that the button was in scope.
I haven't tested this out, but I put probably wrong. B dot set text in brackets B dot get text plus plus. But that's probably just the pseudocode.
That's close, yes.
You could do B dot or B dot get text equals integer dot parsing.
That's the one that's the missing step. So the way that I would do this is I'd say int x is equal to, I think it's integer dot parse, and then inside of that you put the string, if I'm recalling things correctly.
Maybe it's B dot get text inside of that.
Yeah, b dot get text inside of that. Right? It's a string. So what you would actually get if you did that was 0, plus 2, plus 1 would be the string 0, 1. Right?
Concatenated.
Yeah, concatenated. Then x plus plus, and then b dot set text x. Yes?
If you do a private integer count, and then you do b.setText string.value of count and then increment count. Would that also work?
Are you assigning the value in the label to count?
No, count equals 0 at the start, so the first time it calls it will be 0, and then it increments after you pass the value to it.
So that I would give like a 75 or an 80%. It's like mostly yes, but you missed a requirement. The requirement you missed was do not make any assumptions about what the integer on the button will be when it's pressed. Assume there may be some other code somewhere that is also changing the button, the text of the button occasionally. So if you're keeping, like it's a laudable goal, right? Because what you're like, it's an intelligent mistake because you're trying to separate model and view, right? But given the wording of the question, if the button text is modified, then your code would overwrite that modification with what it thinks it should be, right? Yeah. So yeah, an intelligent mistake, but not quite meeting the requirements.
So what if the other functions that the other code change the title of the button to a text for the title?
Then the whole thing breaks. You end up with a parsing error, right?
So that's why I assume from the beginning that we have to track the value.
Yes.
And this is what I understood from the question actually. Because it's stated clearly that you can add instance variables, you can add, say this.
Yeah. Let me think here for a second. Okay, all right. We might be splitting semantic hairs, but the text as it reads is, do not make any assumptions about what the integer on the button will be. That assumes that it will be an integer, that phrasing, right? Like, it's kind of like, it's embedded pretty deep in the sentence, but that assumption is there. I don't, like, again, I think it's an intelligent mistake to make. It's kind of like down to the fine wording of the question, but yeah, if you keep the external count variable, you become immune to any changes to the button text, which is also not what the problem wants. Did you have a comment, sir?
I'm not sure exactly, but I think for set text of an integer, you have to do string.value of x.
String.value of, really?
I think, I'm gonna double check it quick, but I'm pretty sure you have to.
It's integer dot parsing parse too.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, the integer dot parse, for what I did, what I said, like in the assignment and what I searched up is it's integer dot parse int. Is that different than integer dot parse?
No, that's the one.
No, it should be parsing.
Yeah.
Zero point.
Yeah, probably. I was doing this from memory.
No, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was.
Parse int. There we go. Yeah. Okie dokie. Now, I've had enough of this question. Have you guys had enough of this question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's,
All right.
yeah.
Oh, look, another one. So all of that stuff I said about knowing how the all the start method stuff works. This is the question that tests that on the. Sorry, I'm looking at question 15. On this test, it kind of split up knowing how to write the event from knowing how to use the start method. Those are two different questions. So please know how to do both. I'm not sure that that's the most useful use of our time here. It's fairly straightforward stuff, mostly just memorization. Let's take a look at question 13, though. A coin collection object keeps track of an array of coin objects. It has the following features. A constructor that accepts an integer representing the number of coins in the collection. It creates a coin array full of coin objects, sets the year of each coin, starting at 1900 for the first coin, 1901 for the second, and so on, and sets their values to $10, $10.50, $11 each. A getCoin method that accepts an integer parameter and then returns the corresponding coin object from the array, with 0 as the first coin. GetSize method that returns the size of the coin collection. And inflate method that adds 50 cents to the value of every coin in the collection. I think that's the opposite of how inflation actually works, isn't it? Anyway, toString method that returns a string representation of each coin in the collection separated by semicolons. Write Java code to implement the coin collection class. The code you write must be tight, no extra instance variables, no unnecessary code, and it must be constructed according to best practices for object-oriented design. So when it says best practices, that's what we've been teaching. So that means do it the way we did it in class. Okay? In theory, we've been teaching you best practices. At least what we think best practices are. So, question 13. Note that this question does not require you to implement the coin object, or the coin class, just the coin collection class. Although, for studying, not a bad idea. So, public class coin collection. There we go. Instance variables, what do we have? A coin array, very good. Public coin array coins. Anything else?
Would we lose marks if it was private? Does it need to be public in this case?
Oh, yeah, actually, private is better. Pardon me, thank you. You don't need a separate variable for the size because that's stored as the length of the coin array once it's initialized. Anything else? Or can we move on to the constructor? Shall we construct? Public coin collection takes the integer representing the number of coins in the collection. Size. See, when I'm talking about poor phrasing, this is exactly the sort of thing that I'm talking about. It's like a constructor that accepts an integer representation, integer representing the number of coins in the collection. Like, it's an, like, you can rephrase that, it's like, a constructor, like, I actually often, like, give, like, constructor name with arguments, you know, int x, x's number of coins, right? I phrase it more like, you know, a constructor that takes x where x is the number of coins. Like, the word representing is completely superfluous in this sentence. Anyway, creates a coin array full of coin objects. So we are creating an array and setting every value in it. Creating the array, running out of ink, coins is equal to new coin size, yes, thank you. Now we need to initialize it. What kind of loop do we use? For loop. If I give you like a bunch of time to like go through these, at this point in the class we'll never get through them, so I'm just going to do them on the board. We'll do them together, okay? Okay. Coin, I is less than coins dot length. I plus plus. We are creating, so it creates a coin array, it sets the year for each coin. Yes, yes, yes. So, if you kind of like, okay. Another problem with this question. The coin constructor should be mentioned at some point and like what it takes, you know? But, you know, you're just supposed to assume it's done normally, I guess. So, coins at I is equal to new coin, assuming, let's assume it's year then value, right? So, what formula can we put down to represent this sequence of years?
1900 plus 5.
I plus, yes.
1900 plus I. Very good. Math. How about the other one?
10 plus 0.5 times I.
10 plus 0.5 times I. Very good. That will do. Very, very good. Close off the for loop. Close off the loop, or the method, and that's all you need. A getCoin method that accepts an integer parameter and returns the corresponding coin object from the array with 0 as the first coin. This is probably the easiest method you'll ever write, aside from just a getter. Public, what's the return type? Coin, good. Get coin, int I don't return what?
Coins at I.
Coins at I. I'm pretty sure that also works with methods. If it's a one-liner, you can just snap that onto one line. Get size. Similarly easy. Public return type. Int. Very good. Get size.
Return the length of the array.
Yep. Return coins dot length. Good. Obviously, if you want to use curly braces, use curly braces. Inflate. adds 50 cents to the value of every coin in the collection. Uh-oh. Return type? Void. Let's not avoid the issue. Here we run into an interesting question. Here's okay. Let's see. Do you guys know what interesting question we run into? Can you read my mind?
You can now access the value of the coin through the setter. You can add it, increase it through the setter.
Yes. So we're really not told much about the coin class, right? Does it have a setter? Does it have a getter? Is this variable public? Right? We're taking a guess. So what we could say is coins, like if you were assuming that it was done according to standard, the standard way of doing it, coins I dot set value, coins at I dot get value plus 0.5. Something like that. Yes?
There is a page with code, like 3 pages down, that is basically the code that you're going to use for this.
3 pages down?
Maybe more. Almost.
Oh, the commemorative coin. Yes.
I think that's where the getters, with the get.
I still feel like information is missing, like this is asking you to do commemorative coin, which is inheriting from coin.
If you go to page 14, it has a public class coin written out.
Page 14.
Or, yeah.
Is there a reference to that somewhere in the question?
Yeah, it says the first 2 persons in this section make use of the coin class as shown on the second last page of the text.
Oh, it's in bold. But
This is still right though.
I think.
yeah, I hate this test. What kind of nonsense is that?
That makes 18 of us.
That makes, it's like, come on. Okay. Dr. Moore's Principles of Good Test Design, item number 3472. The question should contain all of the information necessary to answer the question. Curly bricks. All right, toString. Short. It's basically the same as this, but you're printing 2 strings instead, right? Public string toString. For, well, string out. And if anybody uses String Builder, I'll know that you've been AIing your assignment. String out is equal to empty for int I is equal to I is less than coins, doubling I plus plus. Out is equal to, out concatenate with. I'm not sure if like plus equals maps to concatenation in Java, so I'm being a little careful. Coins add I dot to string. Separated by semicolon, semicolon, and. So for this question, in case you're the type of person who likes to make your life difficult unnecessarily, for each loops would be possible in both of these cases. So. That was a little mean to the poor for each loop. Cool. I think that does it. I think that's everything. Any questions? This one should have come off as fairly straightforward. Fairly straightforward should be your impression. Okay? All right. Does anybody need to take a picture of this with their phone before I erase it? The reason I'm not using this board is because it's not in focus of the camera. So we're all good? Oh, please be my guest. Question?
Is this like the level of what you give us on the test in terms of, or would it be like, would we be like more things, an array of objects, more stuff?
Let me put it to you this way. I consider this test to be long and easy. I like tests that are shorter and a little tougher. I ask tougher questions than this generally. I know people are like, oh, don't say that to me 2 days out from the test. But no, it's like, I will defend this according to current pedagogy in light of recent developments in artificial intelligence. The skill that we are training you for increasingly is not rote memorization of syntax. The skill that we should be training you for is problem solving, because that's the thing that you can get employed for when the computer knows how to do the syntax. So I don't see what point is in testing rote memorization of syntax so much. I mean, it's kind of like a filter that means that the people who are actually have not engaged in the material whatsoever at all, it kind of filters them out. It's like, do you know how to declare an array? It's like, if you don't know that, I've sometimes thought that if you did a study and you if you plotted people's mark on the first page of the test versus their mark on the entire test, you'd probably find a pretty strong correlation, right? But if you don't know how to declare an array, it's you should probably take the course more seriously. Yeah, I don't see what the point is of rote memorization of syntax. It's this problem solving. That's the issue, right? So that's what I like to put on tests. Is that stuff I was talking about, techniques for solving a problem. Yeah. All right. So I differ with the opinion of the professor who put this test together on a couple of points. So, a commemorative coin collection object is a coin. Well, that being said, I'm not the guy in charge of this course, and I do have to keep it in line somewhat with what's gone on in this course. So as always, the truth will be somewhere in the middle, right? So, commemorative coin object is a coin object that has an extra string field called name. It has a method to get the name of the coin and its own two-string method that prints the name of the coin as well as the year and its value, as shown below. Write the code for this coin class, use inheritance and the super keyword to help you write as little code as possible. Alright, this shouldn't take as long. We might actually be in danger of getting out early today. Oh man, I need to pull up a couple more tangents and fill the time, eh? So, commemorative coin, public class, what is it, C coin?
Yes.
They're not going to make me write commemorative up on the test. What's the next?
Extends.
Extends.
Coin.
By the way, I have to say, you guys are a great group. This is a great amount of audience participation. I'm not usually so lucky. Public class C coin extends.
Coin.
Good. We need to add an extra string field called name. We're going to assume that according to correct principles of design and encapsulation, it should be
Private.
private. Good. Private string name. Is that it? Any more instance methods or instance variables? Nope. Good. It has a method to get the name of the coin and its own two-string method that prints the name of the coin as well as the year and the value. So, get the name of the coin. Public string get name return name. There you go. Like, I'm not sure how that counts as like giving you marks on application. Sorry, I'll stop complaining about this test. Two-string. Everybody knows that you don't print to standard output inside of a two-string method, right? Good. Wonderful. A coin from X worth Y named, okay, return a coin from, I'm guessing it's coin, it's like get year, it's like it's like get year, right? This dot get year. Suppose I could just look it up. Bloody page 14. Yeah. Get year, get value. Okay. Because remember, what do we remember about classes? During inheritance, private instance variables, can we access them from subclasses?
Yes.
Nope. Not directly. You need to go through the method interface. Yeah. Good. So, a coin from this dot get year. Worth $, plus this dot get value plus, I think it's named. Yeah. Named. This dot get name. I suppose I could have given you time to work on this, couldn't I have? Oh well. Closing curly brace, closing curly brace. I think that's, yeah, did I make any, did I
Do we
do?
need to override this? It's the same two string?
Oh, with the override,
Like add override?
directive, yeah. No, you don't, actually. So the override directive, let's review that quickly. It is not syntactically required for the program to be correct. What this thing tells the compiler is, hey compiler, I'm pretty sure I'm overriding a method here. Do you mind checking for me that I'm overriding something the way I think I am? I'd really appreciate it. Thanks, compiler. And the compiler says, oh yeah, this is a two-string method. You don't, everything is a two-string method. Everything has that. Obviously you're overriding it. Why do you even need me to check? That's what it says for a two-string method. But for many other, like for example, if you were writing your own methods and you expected one of yours to override something and it didn't, that would indicate you might have to go back to the drawing board on your class diagram, for example. So that thing, that is a note for the compiler, not a note for the runtime environment. Right? So this will get stripped out before it gets to the virtual machine.
So if we don't have it on the two-string method, it's okay, but if we have any other kind of repeating name method, then we should have it on the test.
No, you will neither gain nor lose marks for it, as it is not syntactically required. It's like good practice to use it, but not required. Yes.
I think the question wanted you to use the super to string.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Let's take a look. Okay, I'll do another version of that. Let's see here. Yes, true. All right. So this is deeply suboptimal. Return. It kind of felt suboptimal as I was writing it out too. This, or no, not this. Super dot to string plus named plus this dot get. Although I suppose you don't even need to use that because you have access to it. So you could just say this dot name. Sound good? Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? Philosophical questions? Anything to avoid that last question on this test?
I have a quick question, but I'm not sure if you answered this before. Did you say there are sometimes bonus marks on the exam or the test?
Sometimes. Not on test 2, but you might have a little present for you on the exam. It's not worth much. It's like 2 marks. Yeah.
Just kind of clarifying for this question, if we use this dot get name because we wrote that get name method,
It's fine. It's good. So my general policy when it comes to marking code at this level is, unless there's something specific in the questions that says like use super or minimize redundancy, I'm generally satisfied with your solution working, right? My test is, like, the way I mark coding questions is generally this. I fire up the old inbuilt compiler and I say to myself, okay, if I were to take this code and actually stick it into a compiler, how much work would it need to work, right? And that's the answer to that question expressed as a percentage is roughly speaking how much you get on that question. So, like, for example, if your code would work perfectly, even if it's not efficient, it's worth full marks. 1 or 2 minor things, not counting, for this section of this test, not counting syntax errors, like missing semicolons or mismatched braces. Things like you're applying the wrong operation to the wrong type, for example, right? You're doing an integer thing to a string or something, right? It's like, down comes the mark a bit. It's like you don't quite know what your variables types are, and as a programmer, you should always know what your variables types are, right? Problems like structurally with like the way that you're doing your control structures, We're now talking in like the C to D level. Before we were talking in the B level, now we're kind of talking to C to D level, depending on how badly it is, how bad it is. Normally, to get like under that, you'll have to have missed parts of the questions or badly misinterpreted the question, right? To get like, that's kind of where F starts. Underneath that is like, you're not giving me Java code, or this is mostly pseudocode, or like, this is actually, like, these are JavaScript operators that you're giving me. Well, I shouldn't say that. If it's otherwise perfect, but you've used like JavaScript's triple equals, I'll be like, it's mostly fine. But like, if you're programming Python, if anybody gets back a test from me and you wrote Python in a question, you'll get a great big bold with several exclamation marks. This is not Python, So basically, you need to really not be very good at programming at all to kind of get in the like 10 to 20%. Or have like not attempted the question, or didn't have time to finish the question, or any of those types of things, right? It seems to be the consensus of the class that the class is coming to its end, so. Yeah, okay, I don't mind you letting me out 10 minutes early. We did get through basically everything on there. Final pieces of advice for the test. Hopefully you've been doing some studying before now. If you haven't, although I did earlier say that studying properly is better than cramming, cramming is still better than nothing. So do some studying, please. All right, thank you very much. I will see you on Thursday. Get out of here.